Started off as a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
Oh, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm gonna have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast, where we sit currently at 100 and Rostislav Oles of subscribers. He wore the jersey number 85. So we have increased a little bit in, he played with the Florida Panthers. It's true. Yes. So, so we have increased in subscribers. Devin's like, who the frick is this guy?
Yeah, who the fuck is that? Honestly,
he is a real hockey player. And then you can subscribe to the audio shortly after that. Hello, how are you, Devin?
Holy shit, man! It's been a whirlwind of the past few weeks here for me, but doing well. I'm happy to be back on at the start of a podcast instead of jumping in halfway through or even 7/8 through a podcast. So I'm doing well. I'm here in Banff, Alberta. It's beautiful out here. I will be selling peelers here for the next 3 days. So if you're in Banff or in the area, come check out the Banff Christmas market and you can see me demonstrate the shit out of these peelers because they're damn good. So yeah, I'm doing good, man.
Okay, let's clarify here. It's not strippers for those who are worried.
Well, I mean, if you really want to come and see if I'm selling strippers or not, go for it.
Fair enough. We'll leave that. Oh,
that's
go
right.
To Devin selling peelers.
That's right.
Yeah. By the way, Oles was the number 7 overall pick in the 2004 NHL entry draft. He played 6 seasons with the Florida Panthers. He played 1 season with the New Jersey Devils, played 10 games with them, but mostly had a career in Europe.
So when was this draft? Sorry?
2004.
Oh, shit. Okay. That was the Malkin draft, was it not?
Yeah, it was the Ovechkin. It was Ovechkin, Malkin, Barker, Ladd, Wheeler, Montoya, then Oles.
Montoya. Oh, my God. What a great goalie he was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic backup on a shitty team.
Yeah. That's an interesting draft. That's a Devin Dubnyk, Corey Schneider, Travis Zajac, Wojciech Woski, who was, Lori Korpakowski, who played a little bit with the Leafs. Dave Bolin was in that draft. David Booth, not great people, but Brandon Dubinsky, Alex Goligoski, who was still playing, Sammy Lepazito, Clayton Stoner, who is an assistant coach on the South Island Royals, Justin Pogue, Alex Edler. Yeah, Pogie, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
Pronounce that. Thomas Greiss, Alex Edler, Dustin Boyd.
How good does Dustin Boyd look? Just ask himself. Or you go fucking ask him because he'll tell you how good he looks.
Hey, when you got it, you got it. Christopher Stieg also in that draft.
Oh, talk about a great hockey mind that probably deserves a head coaching, if not assistant coaching job somewhere.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. Roman Polak also in that draft.
Oh, Poli, nice.
Yeah. Who else? That's okay.
I love going down the rabbit hole, man. I really do.
Yeah, this is quite a. I mean, there's no other. I don't think there's anyone else well known that played a heck of a. Daniel Winnick was in that draft.
Talk about a suitcase that had a decent career.
Yeah, Winnick played 798 games in the NHL. Mark Straight was also in that draft.
I had his Mark Straight.
Yes,
I had his terrible curve for a long time. It was barely anything.
Wow, that
like on the hockey stick that you had Mark Straight or Straight, whichever one you wanted to call it. Jerome McGinley, which was a bit too much of a curve for me. Maybe a little bit of a lift at the toe. And then he had a Datsuk and a Datsuk was just ridiculous. It was right off the heel and then it curved right a quarter into the curve and it just lifted straight up. So the fact that he was able to get up tight and roof it like he could and do those ridiculous saucer passes so easily, damn, that's that all has to do with the curve.
It all has to do with the curve. Kate's here. She says, "Let's go Pens." The Pens did crush the Montreal Canadiens tonight, 5-0 or 6-0. A lot to a little was the final score in that game. And the Canadiens are a absolute mess right now for sure. And
complete tire fire.
Yeah. Very. That's a team. I imagine. I mean, that's it. We'll get into one. That's one team that I think GMs are going to be calling here pretty quick about. Like, hey, do you want some draft picks for a couple of guys? Just say it.
Well, and you know what's bad when Zach Austin Reese gets 2 assists. Yeah, Brock McGinn getting a goal. Kasperi Kapanen getting an assist. Danton Heinen getting a goal. Teddy Bluger with 3 points, 2 goals, and 1 assist. Like, oh my God. You got to talk about from the riches to the fucking poor for Montreal after their run last year. It completely baffles me that they've been able to, or they were able to sustain such a long run in the playoffs and now just shit the fucking bed. And granted, you're without arguably one of the top 5 to 7 goalies in the world with Carey Price, and not to mention Shea Weber, your captain, not being able to play right now either. So it's massive. And I mean, we can talk about this a little bit if you want, but Corey Perry, as big as he was in the playoffs, man, he's doing wonders down there in Tampa Bay right now, as far as I'm sure locker room and leadership goes.
Yeah, they certainly have lost a lot of leadership without Price, without Weber, without Perry for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, they, to be honest though, like let's look at this the other way. They caught Toronto flat-footed. They got Winnipeg they got everyone else kind of flat. They caught everyone flat-footed when they played them last year in the playoffs. So yeah, I mean,
it's also easy when they are the underdog going into every single series.
Yeah. And they had to sing. I mean, it wasn't wrong, but Cole Caulfield didn't get off to a great start, and he's now back with the team. And no Philip Deneau. I think that's huge. That was a huge loss for the Habs.
Massive.
And yeah, they've lost so much, and I think they're going to have to be sellers, and and then they spent a hell of a lot of money that is going to be tough to get out. Like that, if you're trying to trade Josh Anderson, that's a tough contract to get out. I was on the Fireside podcast last night. We just touched on the idea of maybe a Tyler Toffoli coming to the Calgary Flames. I don't know if it's a fine contract. I don't know if I truly like it a lot. I think it's going to age out a little bit here, a lot quicker than people think, even though it's only a 3-year deal and it's in his second one.
Yep. And he's only 29. It's not terrible. Like usually after 30 is when they take a bit of a downfall. I would love to see Noel Armia coming towards the Flames if we're gonna talk about selling off the farm there, or selling off some players that are very much Daryl Sutter players. And Noel Armia, he's a fucking beauty of a player. I love what he brings to that middle six.
Yeah, he would be a good ad. I think that would be the guy I mentioned. You can listen to the Fires. That would be the guy I would be interested in Montreal, who are 6 points behind the Buffalo Sabres, who I mean, we've ragged the puck enough because we're here to recap the Flames shutting out the Sabres, and we're 10 minutes into this and we haven't even talked about this game. There's not a lot to talk about. The Sabres were quite frankly, this was not a good game for them. It was 5-0, and the Sabres are 6 points ahead of the Montreal Canadiens. Though, if you're interested in looking at that, but just to go through the scoring here, it was let's see here. Let me go back here as I was just looking at the standings. Now I'll go at the summary here. It was Johnny Gaudreau on a nice goal from Tkachuk and Tanev at 10:30. Then bread happened, Mangiapane from Tanev and Kylington. Again, another point for Oliver Kylington, his 9th assist. And then Tkachuk from Gaudreau and Lindholm at 13:58. And then Manj got another goal. And then someone else scored. And it was wonderful. Hang on. Let me go through It was then Mangiapane, and then Gaudreau ended it at 15:35. No goals, no penalties. There wasn't, in terms of this game, it's Jacob Markstrom 5th shutout and 13 starts. That's just amazing. I mean, he made 21 saves today. Couple of good chances. Nothing dangerous there. Yeah, in terms of, I mean, it was a really complete game, probably a game they should have won. And so, in terms of the game, I don't think there's a lot to really talk about to delve into. It's fair to say. But I do think that there's some themes that I wanted to get out of this. And one of them is, how do the Flames play Andrew Mangiapane more?
Well, you and I did talk about this right before we came on. You could put him on the power play a little bit more. It's okay. So let's go down that rabbit hole a little bit. Okay, so you're going to put him on the first power play, which is Matthew, Tkachuk, Monahan, Gaudreau, Lindholm, and Anderson, right? And so the only person that I think you could possibly take off, that would be Sean Monahan, but at the same time, you want to make sure that he gets the chance to get back into his form that he has been for the past, well, let's say minus the past 2 years before that, where he was scoring 20 to 30 goals every year. And I don't know if we want to demote Monahan to have that, to bring in Mangiapane, because having that balance of the first power play unit to the second power play unit, making sure that you have threats on both units, I think is very advantageous, so that whenever you're going in to a game, you're able to have two units that have offensive threats. And okay, so you have Johnny Gaudreau on the flank on the one side, and then you have Elias Lindholm on the other flank as Rasmus Anderson is at the top there. Those are where those two flanks is where you want Mangiapane to be, in my mind. He does have a quick release, but I don't know if him being in the high slot, being the trigger man, is right up his alley. But hey, you never know until you get him there to really prove himself and make sure that he's able to, he's able to do that. But outside of the power play, I don't know. He had a decent amount of ice time. It was over 17 minutes tonight, and it was probably not the best utilization of him on the power play. But I think realistically, he's providing goals and points when he isn't even playing as much as we think that he should, as far as fans go. It's a long season, 82 games. I see potentially him ramping up after trade deadline, maybe 2-3 weeks after trade deadline, to give him the opportunity and play potentially on that top line. But that top line has been so good that it'd be very hard to go away from him. It really depends on, if there's injuries throughout the year, that he's able to elevate throughout that lineup. But I'm honestly, I'm okay with where he's at right now with his time, just so that he is able to provide and execute in when it does really matter, going into the playoffs and in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's fair. I wasn't thinking Monahan. I was thinking that if I was to make a switch, it might be, and I'm maybe unpopular saying this, I might switch him with Matthew Tkachuk. But I see your point. So
then on that power play, where would you put him?
Where you put Tkachuk, he would drive this the same way.
So Tkachuk, he's normally in front of the net trying to tip pucks, right?
Yeah, that's what I do with Mangiapane, because I think he would do well doing that. And then you can because that second power play isn't awesome, and I wonder if you allow Matthew there, that it almost becomes a double threat. But maybe
sorry, I'm going to jump in here and just talk about the second power play unit. Right now, you have Noah Hanifin as your kind of quarterback on there. Talk about a player that is, I think, earned it more than Hanifin has. Oliver Kylington.
Yeah,
he's very much a Eric Gustafson type of player. That is his footwork is good enough. His passing is good enough to be deceptive, and talk about an offensive threat that he's been putting up points and surprising us. So I would love to see Noah Hanifin off that second power play unit and put Oliver Kylington.
Well, we talked about even more moving Kylington to power play 1. What
has Raz done?
Well, Ras hasn't got a goal yet.
Yeah.
It's not that Ras is playing bad. That's not what I'm saying. But maybe you move Anderson to power play 2. You move Oliver Kylington to power play 1. I don't think that Noah Hanifin, I like Noah Hanifin, but he just, I don't see a huge, I see him being at like a 5 to 7 goal defenseman, which is okay. I think Ras, you can get in double digits, and it's hard. The way Oliver Kylington is going here, it's definitely a potential for double digits, but in terms of goals this year.
Yep, but as far as Hanifin goes, I think I'm in the majority here where we want to see more from him. Want to make sure that he, because you do see the potential there, you do see the speed, you see him have that, like it's a hard balance between, okay, do we see him enough during a game as far as making the right plays. He's not a flashy player, but I feel like he's able to be effective quietly. He's like a Chris Tanev in that sense, that he makes the simple plays that are good. But I think that's where Carolina came out and said, hey, well, what have you done for us? Like, what have you shown us to get you paid what you want to get paid? And that's why I think that he was so expendable in Carolina in comparison to here in Calgary. Like, he's a top 4 defenseman in this league on majority of the teams, if not all the teams. It's just there's a skill set there that you want to see more of. Like tonight, he played just under 21 minutes, and I don't know if you really saw him too much. He plays on the PK, which is good, but I still think you want to see more, and I think that's the same with Rasmus Anderson. I want to see more from him. I want to see him pop a little bit more offensively and be able to dominate a game and have a bit more bite, because we know that bite and grittiness is there for him, that he's able to have that pushback and get in the scrums and just make himself more well known and seen within the fabric of the game. And that's where my criticism comes from for both those players. But in my mind, those two, Anderson and Hannafin, are both top 4 defensemen within this league on the majority, if not all teams.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, the thing that the one thing that I would say that is a bit of a concern for me for the Flames is, hang on here. Let me go here. Skaters. I just want to see. I'm going to pull something here out here. Is they, they need. I would like to like. It's great that this Lindholm, Gaudreau, and Tkachuk, you have like 6 to 8 point combined nights. It's great that Mangiapane gets 2 goals, but if they're not scoring, where are other goals coming from on this team? And specifically, I point out that I do think there needs to be a little bit more goals from the defense. Rasmus doesn't have a goal yet. Neither does Noah Hannafin this year. And I do think that's something that I hope gets rectified towards, because as the schedule is laid out here, the second half of the season is going to be pretty much a playoff game matchup, pretty much after right away here once we hit December. Because on December 1st they're off to Vegas in California, and you're starting that they're not going. Those teams are not going anywhere. Those are playoff matchups, and you need goals elsewhere. I mean, one other thing we haven't, this is not defense, but a player that we haven't had a lot of chat about, Dylan Dubé only has 1 goal this year. And Nikita Zadorov has 2, and Milan Lucic has 4. So it's the secondary finding goals elsewhere is something that I'm a little concerned about. And I do think there needs to be some more goals from the defense. And specifically 55 and 4, I'd like to see him get some goals.
Well, it's goals and points. We know that defense don't normally get goals. If we're really going to pinpoint people here, I do agree Dubé needs to be doing better for sure. Blake Coleman, I would love to see more from him as well. I know he's not really a bona fide goal scorer, but he is getting paid a decent amount at just under $5 million. And to me, it's like, okay, you bring leadership, you bring grittiness. He's had, I want to say he's had at least 4 or 5 breakaways within this first part of the season, and he hasn't capitalized. So I would love to see more from Coleman for sure. Dubé, I think he needs to find a role within this team, and Daryl Sutter has been known to give those roles to people, but the fact that he was center for the first half of this year so far, and now he's to the wing again, it might just give different signals here. So, I mean, I don't know exactly what will make Dylan Dubé pop, but you're right. He needs to be popping a little bit more. And yeah, I would like to see a few more goals here from 55 and what is he, number 4?
Yeah, 4.
Yeah. Those having those goals are very beneficial and are needed within this season. And if I'm going to be completely honest with you, I'd rather have them start amping up and start getting ready for the playoffs when right after the NHL trade deadline. That's usually when you really want to start popping. You want to start figuring out where your secondary and tertiary scoring is coming from, because if you can't find that, it's gonna be a hard realization. Just ask the Tampa Bay Lightning of 2 or 3 years ago and how they played Columbus and got fucking swept, as they had a record regular season, but they weren't ready for the postseason. I think once we start having this conversation later on in the year, that's really when you really start. You got to put pressure on them and make sure that they're producing. Because if they're not, then it's going to be very easy to shut down that top line and shut down Mangiapane. Even though how amazing he's been playing for this entire year, even last year he was on a great clip. So you do have to find it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to point Anaheim here. I mean, first of all, you have the found money of the Troy Terry 16-game goal point streak, which is amazing. But you have also Shattenkirk has 14 points, Cam Fowler 13 points, Hampus Lindholm has 7 points, Jamie Drysdale has 7 points. It's just points from just other places just seems to help. That's all I'm saying there. And it is, the Flames are a bit too top heavy offensively. I mean, we're complaining after they won 5-0. Their goaltending, there's nothing to complain about their goaltending. Markstrom and Vladar have been outstanding. There's not much to complain. And defensively, they're playing really well, but they are top heavy, and it is a bit of a concern.
I talk about being a bit nitpicky here. The fact that they have not won an OT. So let's go back to the beginning of November here. You have Nashville. We lost, they lost 3-2 in OT. Next game, lost 4-3 in OT against Dallas. The next week, played a Toronto Maple Leafs team, and they lost an OT again. Lost an OT against Philadelphia. Those are games. Yes, it's good to get those kind of loser points, if you will, from OT losses, but you need to find a way to win those games. You have to. Absolutely have to.
I totally do agree with you that, and especially the Leafs game, which we were going to recap, but we ultimately decided not to. Yeah. You have the lead in that one. You even had the lead in Philly for a bit, and you need to hold the leads in those ones. So, I'm sort of with you on that needs to be fixed, and I think that's where acquiring another offensive piece of some kind would be a key acquisition for the Flames, and but that being said here, I mean, Oliver Kylington continues to impress. It's getting to the point though where this is not going to be easy contract negotiation in the off season. And there's two problems with this, or there's two issues that we're going to have to deal with here. So when we look at Matthew Tkachuk and it's $9 million, I think that money is pretty. Dan and I were talking about this. That money is easy to find because Gabranson and Zadorov are probably not back next year. Although I have generally liked Nikita Zadorov for what he has done, I don't think he comes back next year, but who knows? But that money you can put into the Matthew Tkachuk Foundation. Yep. Kylington is a bit of a different challenge because you also need to determine at some point of what you're paying Johnny Gaudreau. And it's hard to argue that Johnny doesn't deserve 9.
I feel like that's where the conversation is going to start with the Gaudreau camp, if not 10 or 9.5, and then make your way to the middle there of, okay, maybe it's a high 8s. I don't see, as far as he is completely dynamic in what he does, but I feel like if it does get disgusting within the talks, it might get to a point where, okay, what has he done in the playoffs? Right? He's done nothing in the playoffs as far as I'm concerned. He's been a ghost out there. And that's when it matters. Yeah, regular season, cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's great that you're able to put up as many points as you can. 80, 90, 100-point player right there for sure. But it's okay. What can you do in the playoffs to make you worth that type of money? Realistically.
Okay, but to counteract that argument, what has Matthew Tkachuk done in the playoffs? And he's going to be expected. He's a qualifying offer at $9 million.
Well, I mean, you're talking about a qualifying offer that was a part of a negotiation and understanding what the CBA has, what the CBA will bring to that to Matthew Tkachuk, right? And that was probably really good negotiating on the on the part of Tkachuk's camp and making sure that he does have that. And at that point, we were still talking about him coming in and being the next captain potentially, right? So there's looking back at that, is he worth $9 million? Probably not. Maybe 8. But that's the reality of his contract. And I feel like if he had a better, for instance, say for instance, we got Jack Eichel. Calgary Flames traded for Jack Eichel and they got him. I feel like that'd be a different story within seeing how the dynamic is between them, because realistically, it's all about pairs. And if you're paired up with a good player that can help you produce on a elite and generational kind of player / tear, then you're able to offer a little bit more, right? So Tkachuk, he's a bit of a different circumstance for sure. But Johnny Gaudreau, they're completely separate players at completely different stages of their career. And Gaudreau is going to want to get a bunch of money. And depending on where Tkachuk is, okay, he might do a bridge. He actually might do a bridge. You know why? Yes. You know why? Is because he's probably like my thought process here is that he would potentially bet on himself and able to, 3 years from now, where's the cap going to be? How much more money can I get than getting locked up long term at X amount of money?
Well, if you get Matthew at a bridge, that's interesting. I don't know if he would do it, but they're tough negotiators. But I mean, if that happened, great. You can't lose Johnny for nothing. I mean, you got to.
No.
Yeah. But we were talking about this yesterday. I think it's not. I think he's at 9. I think it's a reasonable thing. And I mean, if he has a good playoff, if he solves the playoff issue, and they go fairly far. He may have a legitimate argument on that as well, but
it's a very interesting situation that Calgary is in. Finding that money isn't hard, like you guys were talking about, but I mean, realistically, getting Johnny at 9 is only $2.25 million more than what they're paying him right now, which isn't that much more.
I mean, yeah, but if you're buying out Lucic, that can solve some of that.
100%. But you have Mangiapane coming up as well. He has Arbrights as well. That's going to be a scary negotiation for sure. And he's probably going to want at least 6.5, right around there. The good thing is that you got Dylan Dubé locked up at 2.3 for the next 3 years. 2 years after this, I mean, okay. Well, are we gonna? Okay. I guess I don't know if you want to go down this road just yet, but Yusuf Alamaki, what is he going to be doing? Like, where is he within this system? And is he going to be wanting a trade here pretty soon? Because if he's going to go down this road of not being able to get back in this lineup, A, that's not good for his development, and B, he wants to play. Absolutely wants to play. He was the top scorer in the Finnish league before last year started due to COVID, and he was a first round pick 3 years ago.
I mean, we talked about this. We also talked about this last night, and I mean, I think if there was a major top 6 piece, if there was a man, like let's just throw a name, just throw a name for the hell of it, because I don't think he's coming here, and I don't want his contract. Let's say it's Tyler Seguin. someone like that, then you can see Valimaki being part of a package that going the other way. But I'm not trading. I don't know if I want to trade Valimaki just for the sake of trading Valimaki for the way that the Canucks traded Juolevi for pieces, right? I would want to get something significant back for him. Now, the question right now, I think the question is what do we see out of Valimaki at this particular point? Like, where is he on this team right now? Even if he was in a lineup, he's a 5'6" defenseman. I think it's just so frustrating because ultimately the best thing that happened to Valimaki would be send him down to Stockton and let him play. But you cannot send him down because he would not clear waivers. That is the frustration of this.
Well, he can do a conditioning stint, though, right? He can go down if Valimaki and his agent agree to it. They can go down for a conditioning stint. I don't know how long that is. I think it's 5 games, just off the top of my head. Not 100% sure.
But that doesn't get him back into the lineup here in Calgary. You still have that headache of dealing with this.
It really depends on how well he does down there too, right? If he puts up, a point per game down there, you have to give him a chance. You have to. And that's where Tree Living, okay, you can tell that Daryl Sutter isn't really a fan of Valimaki, considering of where he's playing. But at the same time, man, do you want your a player who is if you're putting him into the lineup, you want him playing secondary minutes. You want him on that second line and playing those minutes. You don't want him playing with Eric Branson. No offense to Eric Branson, he's been phenomenal for us. Way better than I thought that he was going to be, because when he came in, I was scoffing at it because I'm thinking to myself, why the fuck did we bring him in? But Branson, he's a good bottom 6 pairing defenseman, but you don't want Valimaki for his development to get there. And maybe once he gets back in the lineup, he might be able to stay there. But having that grittiness for Zadorov and Gabranson on that third pairing is that's 100% Sutter hockey. And the way that Kylington has been playing, how can you give him secondary minutes here? You
can't, and there's my counter argument here. Like as much as I know we're not gonna sit here, and I'm not gonna say Nikita Zadorov is the next Norris Trophy defenseman of the Calgary Flames or anything like that. But when he plays, he's noticeable. He's in the fabric of the game. There are times he does giveaways. There are times he does stupid penalties, but he's in the fabric of the game. With Oliver Kylington, let's be real here. The guy took his opportunity, he improved his play, and he basically forced Daryl Sutter's hand. I think that the issue for me here with Valimaki, the other side of this, is I don't feel Valimaki is forcing Daryl Sutter's hand. Like, there is nothing that Valimaki is doing that Daryl Sutter's like, oh my gosh, I need to get. Well, Oliver Kylington did it. Oliver Kylington literally was like last year, Daryl Sutter wouldn't give Oliver Kylington the time of day. Now he's giving Oliver Kylington top 4 minutes. So whatever Oliver Kylington did, Juuso Valimaki is not doing. I think it really does. It has to do with what happened in the preseason.
Do you remember the preseason where Kylington played 24 minutes that one game, and he absolutely he played amazing. It wasn't like a generational player like you're watching Cale Makar or something like that. But he played high minutes. He made a few mistakes, but overall his game was solid. So Valimaki, I don't remember if he got that chance to really shine like that, right? And once he I remember Derek England, when we had all those injuries, or Calgary had all those injuries 3 years ago or 4 years ago. God, when was it? I think it was 4 years ago. He said, playing more, you get in the rhythm of the game. You said to yourself, get in the fabric of the game. If you don't have those reps and those repetitions to really solidify yourself within that context, it's very hard to make a difference and to pop properly, to show Daryl Sutter that you're willing and able to play a regular shift within the NHL. And I think it also has to do with Milan Lucic back at the when Calgary was eliminated. There's a lot of people, or there was a few players within this locker room that felt entitled to it, and I feel like Valimaki was one of them. So maybe Daryl Sutter is sending a long fucking message to Juuso Valimaki, and I mean, Zadorov, he's played decent enough to stay in the lineup.
Yeah, he has. And I feel like if Gabranson was to go down, Michael Stone would go in. I mean, I agree that I like it's ideal. I would like to get Valimaki back in the lineup. I think that's ideal. It's just right now it's not working. It's just not available for him. But when he gets back in that lineup, he needs to make an impact. He can't be the same stagnant Juuso Valimaki that we're seeing right now. That's the problem.
Absolutely. You have to make a massive fucking wave within that lineup. You have to. If you don't, then it's you're still in mediocrity, and you're not making progression within your within the organization whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oliver Kylington is a year older than Juuso Valimaki, which is absolutely crazy to think about, because you think Oliver Kylington being, I don't know, maybe 26. He's 24 years old. Juuso Valimaki is 23 years old.
He's in which he was in the Connor McDavid draft.
Yep, and he was supposed to be a first-round pick, if not a top 10 pick in that draft. And he fell all the way to the second round.
I mean, the other thing with Valimaki is, maybe defense, it takes a while for defensemen to truly develop into what we expect them to be. There is always growing pains, and maybe the next couple of years we see Valimaki take where he is, but he needs to make an impact when he's in the lineup. And I know that fans want to see him. I want to see him too, but if he's not doing anything, it's tough to put him in the lineup if Zadorov is doing what Daryl Sutter wants.
Exactly. And until there's a potential injury, hopefully that doesn't happen. Then, Valimaki, any chance that he can show the coaching staff within a practice, that's very hard to do, but show them that he does have pop, and that he does earn a spot within that starting roster for the next day, or that specific day. Man, it's super hard to get back in the lineup, because once you lose faith within the coaching staff, which it seems like he has, until there's an injury, he's probably not going to get in. But how good is that for his development?
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, right? So going down to Stockton and being able to get some reps down there, because he hasn't played in 10 games. I don't know what exactly the CBA has for players who haven't played in a while to get that conditioning strength. I will definitely have to look that up, but I don't know exactly where that leaves Valimaki going forward. It sucks, because like he was the main piece potentially going the other way to get Mark Stone, and at that point. Yeah, it was a very hard pill for me to swallow, to think about losing that type of prospect for a Mark Stone type of player. But oh God, it's super hard to understand where the Flames go with Valimaki, and hey, maybe Valimaki asks for a trade.
Yeah, who knows? It's the standard 14 consecutive days plays routine, and then he returns to the NHL at the land. His salaries play in the NHL, player counts against the salary cap, and the 23-man roster limit. The team has to have the kind of cap situation which the Flames do that allows for enough players as extras. The only other way that, it's tough to do it as a conditioning, because you're going to have to do, it has to be a lot of conditioning stints. And it's just, the frustrating part is the waiver claim, because really that's the reality. And I understand why they they've had to be very careful with Valimaki too. With he's had an injury, so you mean that to be fair to him, he's and that's still going to take time to get back to that 100% USO, wherever that USO is, and I think that impacted him. And also because they didn't want to lose him in expansion with the Kraken, there was times that maybe they wanted to play him earlier to get him some of that development time that it didn't work. It's just he's been kind of in a bit of a trap on that other side as well. That there are some things that have been out of his control that has not helped the situation.
Yep.
But on Kylington, what do you pay this guy? Like, do you look at him and say, this guy's the real deal? This is what we're going to get from Oliver Kylington? Or do you think that this is a blip in the radar and you're like, do you like go, you need to prove it one more year?
I have a feeling it's going to go to Arb. He has arbitration rights. I think it's going to go to arbitration, and I don't think he will get paid more than $4 million.
I think. Go ahead.
The reason why I say that is because this is a blip. This is brand new. He has not played this well ever since this year, and depending on how well he does this year, and if he continues on this this trajectory, then he makes a strong case to get at least maybe $1 million more, if not. But realistically, his track record isn't there. And that's what the arbitration, that's why arbitration is there. And the arbiter is going to look at that and say, hey, listen, this is a one-off so far. So you're only worth X amount of money. And I don't think that's over $4 million.
So Mike Gould last night thought 6. Dan thought 3. I think he's going to be in the Rasmus range. I think it's going to be about 4.5. I think that might be the legitimate. I don't know if it's going to be 5 years.
So you don't think it's going to go to Arb, is what you're saying?
I think it might go to Arb. I think there's a possibility of that for sure. But I think ultimately, I don't know if I would toss him. I don't know if I would toss him a blank check, but I think he has a legitimate argument. I don't think he's out of the realm of saying I'm in the Anderson Hannafin world of salary. But I could see him in the 4. I see it going somewhere 4.5. I think is where it ends up.
And the one thing that Brad Treliving is really good at is the RFA signings. He's been known to be his track record has been very good with his RFAs. And I could see a 3.5 for 3 or 3.5 for 2 being like, okay, you're 24, 25, 26. Let's do 2 years at 3.5. And that is a massive, massive upgrade from what he's making right now, which is what, $750,000. You got to understand that the track record needs to be there in order for them to have a mutual agreement to be like, okay, yeah, let's go long term here. If he goes long term, that number is going to diminish a lot because Brad Treliving, I know, will go to arbitration and it will be messy. And my personal thought process here is that it won't go to arbitration. The arbitration date will be set. But I feel like they'll come out to the other side and find an agreement there before they go to the arbitration hearing.
Does someone throw an offer sheet at him?
Potentially, considering where he was potentially touted, being in the first round of that McDavid draft, if not top 10 within that McDavid draft. He dropped a lot within that draft year, but obviously you're looking at it right now. You got to think that a team, up and coming team, maybe Columbus, maybe just off the top of my head, I can't really think of or maybe Arizona. LA potentially, considering their back end isn't that strong. There are a few teams out there that are, right on the precipice of being like, okay, we're as Ottawa has said that they're out of the rebuild, and they're contender. Ottawa could be a potential for there too, because they really don't have. I mean, you have Shabbat, but and you do have some good prospects coming up as Sanderson, right? Sanderson's in there.
Jake Sanderson, yes, yeah,
right. And so, like, talk about trajectory and seeing when they're going to peak as an organization. Those are the type of teams that could potentially offer sheet them. Right now, it just found money. The fact that he's in the top 4 and he's playing that as high as he is, I don't know exactly where that's going to be. But if I'm betting money right now, I think it's going to be 3.5 for 2 or 3 years, and most likely 2. So Kylington can be like, hey, this isn't a blip on the radar. 2 years is a long enough time for a young player like him to keep on that clip and to keep on showing the organization that he's worth that money. And I believe he'll be in, if it is 2 years, he might be still an RFA, or he might be just into the UFA. It's a tricky situation that Calgary's in within Oliver Kylington's career and contract.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, it is. I mean, I could see it. I think he does. No, he probably would. The next contract, I think, takes him to UFA. I mean, yeah, it would take him to UFA. I would imagine. So you're looking at probably maybe, and then 24, 25. You're with Hanifin, Tanev, and maybe Kylington as UFAs if everything goes right. So it's interesting for sure. Yeah, it's fascinating there. The other thing, just with the Flames quickly, and then we'll touch on. I don't know if I want to talk about Benning too much, but I do want to talk about the new arena. If you saw on Twitter, the Flames introduced the concept of the new arena. Some think this is going to be an eyesore in Calgary. I'm not hating it. I'm not loving it, but I'm not hating it. I'm kind of meh about it.
Graham Mosiman, stop it. You go back to your River Valley and go say how great Edmonton is, because that
well, he's living there, so I think he feels it's okay.
He definitely does, absolutely, and throwing a bit of shade to Calgary. He was in a private chat within Kevin and I don't appreciate his take that it looks like a stapler, because it's not just an arena; it is an event center overall, and so it's not quite. You can't. I mean. Yeah, could it be better? For sure. I'm not going to say that it's absolutely terrible and it's the worst. Could it be better? Yes, but overall, I'm not upset with it whatsoever.
Well, it's not built yet, so I mean, we'll have to see. But it doesn't look. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to move back to Calgary to go see it. But I'm like, meh. I'm like meh about it. It's not horrendous, but it's not great. That's what I feel.
Well, like realistically, it's about what is the experience you have once you get in. The outside, sure, yeah, it can be meh or whatever, and you want it to be kind of eye catching, but okay, well, what type of experience are you having once you get inside? That's my biggest thing. The outside is all exterior, and it doesn't mean much to me. Inside, what is it going to be Vegas like? Is it going to be entertaining enough to want to go back to it? Like the Saddle Dome. The Saddle Dome realistically is a stupid shape overall. Logistically, because you had you have concerts and live concerts that don't want to go there. Because of the acoustics, because it doesn't do the music proper justice. It's very cool from the outside, but from the inside, it's not the best. So I'd say hold off on your reservations of what it looks like from the outside. Let's figure out what's happening on the inside because that's really what matters.
Yeah, I mean, I look at Rogers Center. I always get everything kind of confused. It's Rogers Center, right? No, Rogers Place. Sorry, Rogers Center is the Blue Jays. I get all the Rogers confused. I know that because I usually the Blue Jays is Skydo, but the Edmonton rink, the one side it looks really cool, like because they have all the new kind of funky places there, and then the other side is downtown, and it just looks weird to me. The thing that really just bugs me to no end is how slow that the train goes by Rogers there. Oh my gosh. Can a train go any slower? Honestly, like you can literally, it's like I can row a boat faster. Oh, it's just like yeah. Don't get me started on the C train service in Edmonton. It's horrendous.
To Graham's point, the reason why it goes so slow is so that they can take a look at it and be like, oh yeah, it's so beautiful. That's great. Awesome.
To be fair to Graham in the private chat, he also said that the Oilers game day experience needs to be better. So to be fair.
Well, and I'd rather have a game day experience where I'm thrilled to be there and want to come back in comparison to if it looks good or not.
So Jim Benning did speak to the media today. We talked an hour and a half about this on Monday. The big thing that came out of this is, I mean, there's a lot of things, but he did not give Travis Green a vote of confidence. I don't know what honestly, I guess when Jim Benning speaks, I just have little to no expectation, and if anything profound to come out of him. I think if he just makes little bits of improvement, I'm like, okay, Benning, you're fine. The guy, it's clear it's time for him to go. That's pretty clear. I don't really know what else there is to say about the situation in Vancouver.
It's been time for him to go for the past fucking 3 years. Honestly, it's hard to listen to him talk. It's hard to understand the moves that he makes. And I mean, yeah, we can sugarcoat a little bit. But realistically, the fact that he gave Anton Roussel, Louis Eriksson, and Jay Beagle those contracts, maybe not so much Louis Eriksson because he was coming off a great year, but given those guys contracts the way that he did, he handcuffed himself. His vision wasn't quite there. There was no direction. It was like, okay, let's figure it out on the fly. And the long-term vision wasn't correct for the Canucks. They have a lot of really good pieces. JT Miller's been, I think, a first-round draft pick, maybe a bit much, but overall, I feel like he's a formidable player that is great in his top six. But God, man, the decision that some of the decisions that he's made. And you can berate me for this. I don't think that he should have traded for Connor Garland and OEL. OEL, man, if you're trading for OEL, you got to be a contender. You have to be.
Well, he obviously thought that they were on the precipice of something, and that's why they made the move. I like Connor Garland. I think the Flames missed out on Connor Garland. I think that was a guy that, from the Flames' perspective, I would have liked to see wear a Flaming C. But I don't think that was a terrible trade. But I do see what you're saying, that if you would probably rather be a contender to get an OEL than where you're at right now. And if you're OEL, after all of this, that you went through the hell of Arizona, you're going through the hell now, you're probably like, what the heck am I? What is going on?
Well, okay, does Connor Garland at a shade under $5 million make up for OEL at $7.26 million for the next 6-7 years? No. I'm sorry, Kev. I got to put my foot down here. It doesn't have a right trade-off. It doesn't. Connor Garland's a hell of a player, and yes, Calgary missed out on him, but the fact that Jim Benning pulled the trigger on OEL, oh my God, it's despicable. Honest to God, it is despicable. And it's easy for me to say this now that where we're looking at where Vancouver is at within their trajectory, and you have Quinn Hughes locked up at 7.85. That's a great deal as of right now. But OEL, man, oh Jesus, how shitty is that contract going to age?
He has 3 points in 17 games. OEL does, and Garland has 13 points, 4 goals. I don't think Garland's been terrible.
No,
but
that's not what I'm saying. I hope you know that.
Yeah, I think I do. I also see what you're saying, but I do see what you're saying with OEL. Like wasn't. I mean, we talked about it when the trade happened. It wasn't like the steal of the deal, but it was what it was. I mean, I think he's been okay though. I don't think he's been terrible. He's been one of their better defensemen. But yeah.
So then, where's the downfall of this team then? Like, where's this going? Because if he thought that they were that close to being where they need to be contenders to make a run in the playoffs, where's this downfall? Like, how are they going to get out of this if that's going to be the case moving forward? Because that trade does not help them whatsoever.
Well, then, I mean, and some people have talked about this. You bring in Alex Chase on a PTO, and then you lose both Jonah Gadjevich and Zach McEwen. I don't know. I don't like right now the way I look at this team and the way I look at how everyone else is playing in the specific division. I don't see playoffs. I don't see this team going on a run, getting themselves somehow in the playoffs. Do you realize the Chicago Blackhawks, after all of the disaster of how they started this year, have tied the Vancouver Canucks in standings? That's how low the Canucks are right now. Yep. That's and it's tough because you've got to get somehow they got to figure out what's going on with Pettersson. Frankly, you need more from Horvat too. Their penalty kill is historically atrocious, and
God, it's so bad.
Like it, I don't know. I don't see a way to get into the playoffs, and it's tough to trade right now. There's not a lot that you can. I mean, at the trade deadline, I could see a guy like Tyler Myers fetching you something because contenders want defensemen, and a right shot defenseman that plays minutes, like a Tyler Myers, is a guy that I think teams would be interested in.
Vancouver would have to retain salary. They would have to.
Possibly. The other guy that maybe is Sean and Tyler going to throw something at me if I'm about to mention this name? I wonder if he's a RFA. Is a Brock Besser a possibility of a trade to get something?
Absolutely is. You gotta figure something out here. You gotta. I don't know how well Besser has played this year, and you could tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he's been a world beater, but he is a chip that they could definitely get something for, and they probably should get something for because God, what else is there? You have a lot of mediocre players making big money. At least you got rid of some shitty players making a shit ton of money that they don't deserve in that trade, for sure. And I commend Benning for doing that for sure. Like, absolutely. But it's getting something in return for Brock Besser right now. You might be selling high. I know that our counterparts here on the Hockey Podcast have talked about how well he's been in his 200-foot game, 3-zone play, a defensive zone, whichever one you want to call it. I don't know that top end scoring skill has not. When he went to the All-Star game, talked to Sidney Crosby, and he's not been the same player. So whether or not that's injuries or a confidence issue or not having or being in the right position, in the right spot, putting him on the right line, is not quite there. It's just if you're going to move him, I'd rather move him now than wait to see, okay, what's that arbitration going to look like? Might as well get some assets for him, depending on, okay, where's this organization going? When do you want to peak? Do you want to tank for Shane Wright? Or within these next 2 drafts here, you might get a really good fucking player, depending on what you decide to do. But you need to decide to do it sooner than later.
Yeah, I think we totally agree there. The top 6 is a big issue too. I heard Kevin Woodley this morning. Even Demko's play, as well as he has played, it slipped off, and you can't expect a guy to do everything that he's been doing. It's
Demko. Sorry, I'm going to cut you off here and talk about Demko for a little bit, because Woodley was on Fan 960 on Thursdays. He's on with Pinder at 9:00 on Thursdays, and he was talking about, it was a few weeks ago, that Demko is not in the right position to succeed. He doesn't have the right structure around him to make him successful. Look at Marc-Andre Fleury. Transition from Vegas to Chicago. Chicago, they're starting to figure it out. They're on a good winning streak right now, but it was that defensive structure in front of Fleury that really put him worse than he was in Vegas, and that's the same thing. That's what's happening here in Vancouver with Demko. He's not being put in the right positions and not having the right structure in front of him to succeed. So where does that come from? It comes from the coach. And I remember asking this to, we had somebody on from Vancouver, and it was Bick Nazar and Jamie Dodd, and I asked him, what's the big deal about Travis Green? Outside of Vancouver, there's not much talk about him. Honestly, there wasn't much talk about him. He was like, oh yeah, he's a good coach, but like everybody around the organization loved and was praising Travis Green. And I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but I remember asking the question, what's up with that? Why is he such a good coach? How come he's not being able to connect with these young players or these players in general? Because it hasn't been there since the bubble. And even in the bubble, it was Demko. It was the Demko show. I don't think that had anything to do with show. Okay, it goes back to the old adage: show me a good coach, I'll show you a great goaltender. Yeah.
Something's got to give here at some particular point. I think everybody knows that. I think that would help. I think that would burst everything in Vancouver. But that being said, I don't see this as a playoff team at this particular point in time, but who knows? Like, just where I'm comparing everyone else in the Pacific Division, where we're seeing the Flames, I don't see them better than the Flames. I don't see them better than the Golden Knights right now. I certainly don't see them better than Anaheim right now, and I don't see them better than LA right now. And I'm not trying to be
or Edmonton
negative, or Edmonton. Like, I don't see. Even if you bring in a Bruce Boudreau, I don't know if he gets him into the playoffs.
If you're Jim Benning, you're looking for that solution. You have to find that solution, and it could be a Boudreau. I mean, we were looking at when St. Louis won the Cup, they were dead last in the league, and they went on a goddamn tear. But once again, what was the catalyst in that? A goalie.
There was a coaching change for sure, and then they had a unifying player moment at a bar that led to Gloria that started everything kind of get together. But the one thing I will say, though, with St. Louis was there were high expectations on that team coming into that year that they were going to be a cup contender. I don't think people were looking at Vancouver and saying, well, this is a cup contender. And they just need a new coach, and then everything's going to be okay.
And have a Jordan Binnington come out of the fucking woodworks and just put on a goddamn show where he's able to rattle off half a season and just absolutely kill it, completely and utterly kill it. within the league, and that was when that happened. I remember they were showing graphics of when did this last happen, and it doesn't happen within 50 years, and it could happen for sure. But you're right, Kev. Within the specific division, Anaheim, they might come back down to earth. LA might come back down to earth. So outside of that, you have Calgary, you have Edmonton, you have Vegas. As of right now, those are the top three as what I'm predicting to be, not in that order, but those will be the top three at the end of this year when it really all matters. And so Benning, and it all comes down from Aquilini. The Aquilinis need to get their head out of their ass, need to fucking trust somebody and not have a puppet, because I've been saying this for fucking months, if not years, that Jim Benning is a goddamn puppet for the Aquilinis. The reason why he's still employed with Vancouver is because he says Jim Benning says exactly what the Aquilinis want to hear.
Yep. I think that's been kind of the clear. Yeah, there's the clear communication is. I don't disagree with you. Benning's. I think we agree. Benning's not the answer.
No.
We talked off air. I did want to bring this up because we haven't talked about a lot of elsewhere out of NHL, and I've been meaning to do that a little bit more. One injury that I think off the radar that I want to bring up is Barkov week to week in Florida is a massive injury for the Florida Panthers. And I know that everyone is on the Florida Panthers bandwagon now, but I'm going to be really intrigued. Alexander Barkov is in the top 5 or 6 of forwards in the National Hockey League. I'm sorry he is. He just and that is a huge loss for the Panthers.
It is absolutely massive for the Panthers to be losing their heart and soul player, top 5 player within this league. And you can argue me till you're blue in the face. He's a 200-foot player. He is dynamic. I hate this toe in this line here, but it's like he's one of the most underrated players within this league. He really is.
If he was playing in Canada, he would be a superstar.
Absolutely. And so the one thing that Florida does have going for them is that they do have center depth. They have Sam Reinhart, who plays center. They have Anton Lundell, who has been, oh my God, when did he get drafted? It was 2 years ago, I believe, he got drafted. And he's come in and he's played very, very well. You have Joe Thornton in there as well. Owen Tippett can play center. Carter Verhaeghe can play center as well. So it's not the fact that they don't have a lack of center depth. It's just that it's kind of like the Vegas mentality of when they came to the league, they had a bunch of middle 6 players playing throughout their entire lineup, and that they were able to show exactly what's going on within that lineup. So it's not the fact that they have lack of center depth, but man, that's a massive loss. He's week to week right now. If they can weather the storm until he gets back, that'd be massive for them, because they do have a really good defensive core with Mackenzie Weegar, Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forsling, who's been a great up-and-coming defenseman, Brandon Montour, and Radko Gudas. It's really good to see that the Florida Panthers are actually surging the way that they are. Let alone, Sergei Bobrovsky is finally coming back to, I don't want to say Vezina caliber like he was in the mid 2010s, but he's definitely showing that he's worth somewhat of his new contract at $10 million. So hopefully that they'll be able to bounce back and I will not bounce back, but keep going while Barkov is out. But yeah, it's a massive loss for them.
Yeah, we don't talk enough about elsewhere outside of our family, and I want to do that a little bit more. So
that's fair.
But by the
to Dylan's point, he said, "Would you like to make a bet on the Ducks missing?" I mean, yeah, okay, I'll make a bet on the Ducks missing. The reason why is because it's such an anomaly. Like the track record isn't there yet, or it hasn't been there where they've been able to consistently sustain a winning record within the NHL, especially within the Pacific Division. And so I think that if you really break it down, Troy Terry on his I know you and I have had some Twitter conversations back and forth about Troy Terry. I'm more than happy to have the conversation with you that he is a great player. But the fact that it's taken a lot of time before he's actually started to kick off here, good on him, man. Absolutely good on him. But you have John Gibson in the back, backstopping an okay defense. And to your point about Brandon Montour, listen, he's playing six. He's number 6 on the depth chart there. I think that's a good spot for him. He's not a top 4 defenseman, but man, he's definitely he's an NHL caliber defenseman. He really is. So prove me wrong, or I normally say don't DM me, Dylan, but you can DM me. That's fine.
Well, make sure you DM the word of the week again, Dylan, which is storm for the prize.
That's right.
Which is a trip to the Flames Vancouver, April 23rd, with the Pig and Duke, limo, food, Devin, Sean, Chris for sure, all that. Thanks for reminding me of doing that because I keep forgetting. If I was to say the one team that I feel is on the edge of being out, it would be Vegas. And I don't know. Devin, I got to tell you, if I was to put money on it, I might throw the money into Dylan's, and I think Anaheim has a better chance than you're giving them credit for. That's a damn good young team. Trevor Zegras is legit.
They are a damn good young team, man. But once again, it's about longevity. When have they shown this before? They haven't. The good thing is
they've been a thorn in the side of this Pacific Division for years, and people keep counting them out. And they are a sneaky, and they've drafted really well.
They draft very well.
And, you get Mason McTavish, who's already in the lineup already, and that guy is going to be a beast in this league too. So, and the Oilers are going to have to.
Trevor Zegras, Troy Terry, Jakob Silverberg, who's been, he's not young, but he's up there within that echelon as well. Sam Steele, Josh Manson. He's a bit older, but that's okay. And Jamie Drysdale. There are really good young core for sure. And if they make it, fuck yeah, good on them. As much I hate to give them praise because I'm a Calgary Flames fan, and Calgary is not. They had that massive streak down there in Anaheim, not being able to win down there. But yes. they definitely, if there's a surprise there, I thought that LA was going to be the surprise within the Pacific Division and might be a dark horse. But hey, listen, they definitely they've brought it so far. Let's see the long term. Let's see if they can actually sustain this. Because if they can, then if they make it to the playoffs, you need a good hot goalie. And talk about John Gibson being a good hot goalie. He's hot as hell.
Yeah. By the way, congratulations to Troy Brouwer, who retired officially. I didn't know he wasn't retired. This is the second player this week that I was not aware that he didn't retire yet. I thought he retired. Dionfanov did the same thing. But former Flame Troy Brouwer, who is continuing to be paid on the Flame salary cap until the end of this year, has retired after 14 seasons. All the best to Troy Brouwer. Will be nice. I'm not going to
shit on him. He had a long career. Good on him. 14
years.
He'll probably have a long, I've actually really enjoyed him on the Flames broadcast every once in a while that they brought him on. I feel like he's composed and he brings up some really good points.
Yep. I just wanted to touch quickly on the WHL. Got some big news in coaching. Regina Pats have hired John Panicka's back on the bench. Connor Bedard's Regina Pats are not off to a good start, and they felt that they definitely needed a coaching change. They are with Connor Bedard, I mean, I think that the expectations are pretty high. So they parted ways with Dave Struch. John Paddock is back on the bench. We will be getting back to doing some WHL podcasts. My schedule has not allowed me to do that recently. But we will be back at that. And the other thing that I did want to point out is the CHL rankings. 4 of the top 5, the Winnipeg Ice, the Everett Silvertips, the Kamloops Blazers, and the Edmonton Oil Kings, are 4 of the top 5 teams in the Canadian Hockey League right now. So if you have a chance to watch some Western Hockey League hockey, I would recommend that you do it because it's very, very good hockey right now. And the Winnipeg Ice are ridiculous. They are 17-1. They have outscored their opponents 98-31. They're they are just blowing everybody away right now. But the other thing I wanted to touch on too is the Blazers game this weekend with the Victoria Royals is postponed to February 15th due to the roads. As of now, it looks like the Kelowna Rockets games are going on. They're in Portland. As of now, that looks like that's going on. We'll touch wood and hope that it is. But with everything going on in BC right now with the roads and the floods and all of that, it's been a tough week here in BC for all of that for sure. Anything else we needed to touch on?
Just that the the Toronto Maple Leafs are on a good stint too. So good on them.
5 in a row for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
5 in a row.
After I think everybody in Toronto was demanding that everybody leaves, they turned it around.
Their last 10, they're 9-1-0. As much as everybody would want to shit on me for that, but hey, listen.
And one guy that I think has actually started to pick up his game that everyone was on was Mitch Marner. I thought he's played very well. I thought he was a really good. I thought he was pretty good against Calgary a couple weeks ago. On the weekend, it's just 4 or 5 days ago. They're starting to get it together. But with the Leafs, it's not so much about the regular season. It's the playoffs that's the concern with the Leafs.
Absolutely.
But they're on the right track.
Let's. I'm going to count it when they start doing well, because Sean Beardy Canuck was very much on Mitch Marner for not producing for the past little bit. So hey, he's listening to you.
Yes. Well, let's leave it there as we thank you everyone for jumping in. We do these recaps for after Flames games Monday to Thursday. So we will be back next week when the Chicago Blackhawks come to Calgary on Tuesday. We'll recap after that. Devin, how do we follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at GordHowe09.
And then Sean is Beardy Canuck 03. Tyler is TNOBLE. Chris is Schneid's SCHNEIDZ. I hope he has warmed up from his trip to Edmonton a couple days ago for the soccer match against Mexico. I am KEVOLE, podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, The Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, The Hockey Podcast. Like and subscribe and share our stuff to your heart's content, and subscribe to the podcast as well, which will be up shortly. And we will talk to you all very, very soon. Bye for now.